Hey guys, it's Leah B from Prestige Veteran Medical Consulting. I am a U.S. Army veteran, physician assistant, and former compensation and pension examiner. So today I want to come on and talk about a really important topic that affects a lot of veterans, and that is alcohol use disorder and how that can be related to VA disability. So did you know that alcohol use disorder is one of the most common challenges faced by veterans and that it can also be connected to your VA disability benefits? Not in the most straightforward way that you always would think about, but in today's video, we're going to be breaking down alcohol use disorder, how it impacts veterans, what the research says, how it can lead to serious medical conditions, and what the VA means when they talk about willful misconduct and substance abuse and alcohol or substance abuse. So stick around until the end where we're going to share some resources that could help you or a loved one. So let's try to understand alcohol use disorder in veterans, right? So, alcohol use disorder or AUD is more than just drinking too much. It's a medical condition where alcohol use leads to distress or harm. For veterans, alcohol often becomes a way to cope with combating stress, trauma, or physical pain. Now, the VA recognizes alcohol use disorder as a serious condition, but here's the catch. VA disability benefits usually aren't going to be granted for alcohol use disorder as a primary condition. However, the story doesn't really end there because alcohol use disorder often connects other serious health issues that may be considered service connected. So, like as a bridge, we've talked about a lot of different things that can be used as a bridge to another condition, like obesity as an intermediate step, sometimes medications, things like smoking, we have a video on as well. So if you have a service connected disability that is going to um, influence that alcohol use disorder or that substance use, and it leads to another condition, you might be able to be service connected for that. So let's talk about what some of the research says. So, research shows that veterans are at a higher risk for alcohol misuse compared to the general population. In fact, VA studies have found that nearly 1 in 10 veterans struggles with substance use disorder, and alcohol is by far the most common. Other studies have highlighted strong connections between alcohol use and conditions like PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, and chronic pain. So, many veterans report using alcohol as a form of self medication. Unfortunately, that not only increases risk of depression, suicidality, it can worsen other medical conditions and physical health. So, alcohol use disorder is rarely just one problem on its own. It's often part of a larger health picture. So, how can alcohol use disorder lead to other conditions? So, alcohol use disorder can cause other disabling medical conditions, like I mentioned earlier. So, this is a key part of understanding how it ties into VA disability. So, here are a few examples. Long term alcohol use can damage the liver, leading to things like cirrhosis or liver failure, fatty liver disease. Heavy drinking often leads to weight gain, which raises the risk of things like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. We have a ton of other videos about obesity and how that can bridge to other conditions as well. And again, I've often seen cases where alcohol use related to the mental health condition sort of ties in to the weight gain as well, leading to, again, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, etc. So, chronic alcohol use can trigger stomach ulcers, pancreatitis, nerve damage, and even cognitive decline that looks like dementia or worsening brain injury symptoms. In these cases, alcohol use disorder becomes the bridge to serious chronic medical conditions. And while the VA may not grant benefits directly for alcohol use disorder, those secondary conditions like cirrhosis or diabetes can qualify if they can be linked back to your service or to your alcohol use. So let's talk about willful misconduct and VA disability. So this is where things get complicated with the VA's rules on willful misconduct. So by law, VA usually is not going to grant disability compensation for conditions caused by a veteran's own willful misconduct. If the VA believes that your alcohol use was purely a matter of personal choice or reckless behavior, they may deny your claim. But, and this is a big but, the situation changes if the alcohol use disorder develops as a symptom of another service connected condition. For example, if you start drinking heavily to cope with your PTSD, depression, or chronic pain, the VA may now view the alcohol use disorder and any conditions caused by it as secondary to the service connected issue, not just willful misconduct. So that's why medical evidence and documentation and your personal history are so important. The line between willful misconduct and a service connected disability isn't always clear, and how your case is presented can make all the difference. So I want to talk about some resources for veterans. I'm going to pull up a window on va.gov here in a second, but if you or somebody you love is struggling with alcohol use, you don't have to face it alone. So let's see. Let me just shift over here really quick to this other screen I have. Okay. Okay, this is va.gov. I like to come on va.gov a lot because they have a lot of really great resources. So as you can see, this is, I just looked up va.gov, alcohol use disorder, and it brought me here. So substance use treatment for veterans, and it just outlines what services VA offers. So there's medications, medically managed detox for substance abuse, drug substitution therapies can be used for cravings. There's opiate addiction. We're not really talking about that today, but there's some other options for alcohol as well. There's short-term outpatient counseling, intensive outpatient treatment. They offer marriage and family counseling, self-help groups, residential care, relapse prevention, special programs for veterans with specific concerns like women veterans. And so there's some more links here, treatment options for substance use. So I'm going to click on that real quick. And 1 second. Okay, so if we get to this tab, it actually has an overview of different things. So we're going to just key in on alcohol today. And it talks about what alcohol use disorder is. 29.5 million people in the US had alcohol use disorder in 2022. So just some statistics, right? Some signs of and symptoms of alcohol use disorder. It says you might have alcohol use disorder if you experience 2 or more of the 11 symptoms listed below, like things like wanting to cut down or stop drinking, experiencing cravings, drinking more than you intended, spending a lot of time getting, drinking, or recovering from drinking, neglecting your responsibilities at home, continuing to drink even though it's causing or worsening your physical and mental health challenges, continuing to drink though it's causing relationship problems, giving up important work, social, or recreational activities, risky drinking in risky settings that put you in danger, developing tolerance, and experiencing withdrawal. So then there's some effects here where it sort of goes into some of those things that we talked about, chronic diseases, harmful medication interactions, just some really good education. And then there's this section here on treatment, and it wants you to talk, it talks about local VA medical centers. And then there's a treatment and next steps page where it again gives you some of those evidence-based therapies like CBT, motivational interviewing, enhancement therapy. So it just gives you a lot of different resources that VA is going to offer to help. And of course, scheduling those mental health appointments. So let me jump back over to my regular screen. Okay, so I hope this was helpful for you guys to sort of untangle some of the issues with alcohol-related disorders, because I know a lot of veterans and their family members suffer from this, and there are a lot of resources out there. Also, if you're a veteran, there are a lot of options, even if you're not service-connected for a VA disability, to get resources to help with this. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Again, I'm a PA. I assist veterans sometimes with medical opinions. I'm not a legal professional. So if you want help with your claim or advice, you always want to check with an accredited legal professional like a VSO, accredited claims agent, or attorney. If you have trouble finding one of those, they're on va.gov. You guys can go take a look. We've even got a video on how to use the search tool on va.gov to find somebody like that in your area or nationwide to help you. So I hope this was helpful. Please drop some comments and like and subscribe. All right. Thanks, guys.